Three, two, one, clap. Yo, welcome to another Should You Watch video. Today, oh, sorry, my dog's attacking me. Let me start over. Uh, welcome to another Should You Watch video. I am MGG and I'm joined here by my co-host.
What's going on is Jugga.
What up, what up, what up? I am Gramps.
And today we're going to find out if Dorohedoro is a show you should watch. Let's get into the video.
All right, so Dorohedoro or Dorohedoro, depending on how you like to pronounce it, is not your typical anime. So it's essentially a show that starts off with a lizard head character, a guy with a normal human body but a lizard head named Kaiman, who's basically on a search to find out who turned him into the character that he is, basically a guy with a lizard head. He has no memories, and he's basically going about trying to find out who he is originally from what the world knows as sorcerers, people who are able to do magic. He lives in this world with his primary partner, Nikaido, and they're going about in this world called the Whole, which is a world that's basically inhabited by normal humans who are practiced on by these people called sorcerers who come from another world here and there in order to practice their magic. And every time they're doing magic in this whole location, it fucks up the world in one way or another. So it essentially takes us on this path where you're actually getting to get to know, for example, Kaiman, his partner Nikaido. You're getting to know the antagonist side of things, everybody who's basically living in that source world or the world of the wizards that you may want to call it. And it gives you that deep impact on who each person is. And I would say that it's not typical in a sense, also in a sense that your female characters aren't going to be, I guess, placed as the shittier characters as you would typically find in a shonen anime or manga.
Big facts.
So with that, I'll kind of transition this over into the story and give my opinion on it. So I would say to start things off, the plot for the story itself, I would say the plot is pretty good. It's pretty easy to follow along with, even though it throws in a lot of craziness at you. It kind of makes you feel like you're high or drunk or on some type of crazy drug with the crazy shit that it throws at you.
Sure.
But at least, but you're still able to make sense of it all. They're able to explain what you're seeing in a well enough fashion, or at least the animation is good enough that you're able to easily visualize it. I can't exactly say how well it would all be portrayed within a manga because I haven't read the manga, but as far as the anime, it's definitely very easy to follow along with. The artwork, it all depends on the person. I would say I'm not a huge fan of the way the animation is. I think they call it like a 3D effects or whatever, or CGI. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of it, but to each his own. I'm pretty sure some people love it, some people hate it. It's just not really for me. Not sure how you guys take on the artwork for it. If you guys,
I hate that artwork, but this was actually one of the very few anime that I was able to tolerate it in because I felt like it was that good, and it was done well enough to where like I wasn't bothered by it. Like the action scene still hit decent, and it just didn't bother me as much as it does with a lot of these other shows. I can't give you exactly the list why, but I hate that animation style, but enjoyed it in the sense of this show.
Yeah, no, like same here. I think what helped was simply the kind of anime story and plot that it kind of did it with, right? Like it was kind of, that super random, the kind of crazy and the kind of just completely out there and different, I guess, anime that you would really standardly watch, at least if you're more like a shonen watcher, or even kind of like a rom-com kind of anime watcher. It was just so different and so gritty that the CGI actually was kind of like the perfect choice for this kind of anime, which made it seem just made it all fit right, even though it was like different and in most cases would come off as like off-putting. But again, we're talking about demons, we're talking about devils, we're talking about gore on gore mixed in with like a light, like playful humor. So it's like what would be like the best artwork than just this kind of off, like colors a little different than usual, the CGI that low key was actually pretty decent CGI. Like I mean I'm speaking for myself right now, but you all chime in. But weren't there times that you almost kind of forgot that it was CGI? Like it just kind of like mixed in together so well that like for a hot second you're like, oh dick, this is CGI, ain't it? I don't know about y'all, but I definitely had that moment quite a few times, and I was just like, wow, definitely big ups to the animators then, who worked on this project.
Yeah, I think sometimes they might have mixed it up, whereas in some cases, well, probably most cases, you're looking at it where it's a CGI effect, and then in some cases it's regular 2D art, and they're able to mix it up so well that you can't really tell at which points you are seeing CGI versus that 2D effect. So I would say that's definitely a very good skill on the animator's part to be able to do that for you not even to notice it. But you did bring up something interesting that I was also going to bring up, the type of anime that you're watching. Yes, it's a action-based anime, but there's a shit ton of comedy thrown in the mix with it, as well as with all of the gore and everything. So you have all of the blood and guts and gore and everything that you would have from Berserk. But you also have a lot of the goofiness and craziness that you would find in something like One Piece. Like, let's say if every other character was like a Luffy type of had a Luffy type of stupidity to him. There's that comedy that you can get from it if you're into it, and
it definitely gave me like those Devil May Cry vibes. Like if you ever played like the ones on the PS2, like the first three, like the way Dante kind of acted in that like demon world, like he always was cracking jokes. It had like a very dark humor aspect to it. Like some sad shit was going on, but they would find a way to make it funny.
Right.
So
like it was rare that you were really stuck, or even, I mean, to be honest, I was rarely really into like my feels or really like impacted me from the gore, which would normally happen in like, if I'm watching like a horror anime, like they're mixing this gore with something like hardcore emotional. But the thing is that they were just throwing around the gore like it was no big deal, like someone would literally have their guts cutting open and you would find like a slight humor to that. Like they would somehow like manage to do that, or at least like something in the background of like a side character eating like a meat pie while someone else getting their guts cut open. It's like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like, like you can just kind of like just watch it, and it just has like a consistently chill vibe, no matter how effed up it does look. Which was what was like a weirdly like appealing side to the anime that almost made like yourself look at yourself like, am I effed up for actually being completely Gucci with this? Like, it's like literally like questioning your own like morals and personalities, being completely comfortable watching the anime, but at the same time, it made you okay with it. So it was just like a constant mixture of being all right / questioning yourself that I just enjoyed while watching the series.
Yeah, and I think it kind of makes you desensitized to the gore when you see, for example, you have there was one scene where one character was holding a basically a garbage bag full of a person's bodily remains, and then the bag bursts open and you see the head pop out, and then the head starts talking and things like that, and it makes it it makes it less serious than it actually should, because it's the whole human body basically blown to bits, but they're still just sitting out here talking the shit as if it was all or nothing. So that's what kind of makes it much better, in the sense that you're looking at a much more gory, where a lot of people would get turned off by it and so forth. But
so I'd even add to that with the whole parts with Kaiman, like in the earlier things. I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but in the earlier battles, like every time Kaiman fights, he pretty much puts that person's face inside of his, like he tries to eat their head more or less, but inside of his head is just a guy that just says
Right.
shit to them. So it's like you can see the person as he's even biting their head. You can see the like bleeding and like he's actually starting to eat their head. But at the same time, they add the funniness because as soon as they're in his head, they're like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And then this guy's fucking face comes out of nowhere and just starts talking shit to them. And then he's like, "You're not the one." And they're like, "What?" It's like they just take a very what the fuck moment and they just put more what the fuck on it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's all good. And it's like, I guess like the best thing about it is that though the whole series kind of gives you a chill vibe, it still gives you that like those key hints of wanting to continuously watch the show because it still has that hint of mystery, that hint of like what's still gonna happen next, like that slight thrill and the actual I mean like, the plot isn't deep, but it's deep enough for you to still have like those questions that you need answers for.
Right.
So it's like all this goofy, funny gore comboed with a pretty reasonable plot when you actually think about it, in the sense where it just keeps you into the series. So I mean, it just hits like a lot of like low key things that just keeps wanting you to keep on watching the show. So I don't know, it just hit like a lot of good points for me. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Exactly. And the last thing I was going to hit on was the world building for the show, and I would say it definitely hits that nail right on the head with the world building, because each episode is going to give you something new that's going on within the world, where it's not simply just focusing on your main characters. No, it's going to be branching out, where you're finding out something and you're like, holy shit. Okay, so now I got, like you guys were saying, now I got these new questions that stack on top of how everything works. Like, for example, it gives you a bit of the wizard world, we'll call it, and it makes you wonder, okay, so who are the big dogs within this world, and how do they make this world work? And you essentially get one of the characters who are like one of the main big guys within it, within N. But it kind of makes you wonder, okay, who are the rest of these big guys who are essentially running the world? Because, you know, within any type of show, there's always somebody who's at the top that's making everything run. And it gives you these like these different events that makes you wonder, okay, so what other shit like this goes on? So like, for example, I think was it like a Christmas event, or it was some type of no, it was Halloween. Halloween, where it happens once every year, where I think the rain comes down and it automatically kills anybody who's in it or some shit like that.
Well, you talking about the zombie night?
Yeah, there we go. Zombie night.
That was hilarious. It was a great episode.
Which that night is a result of you know, the magic that was done on the world, and it makes you wonder, okay, is this a result of everybody doing a bunch of magic in that world over the course of time, or is it just some ultimately powerful wizard who did this to the world while they were practicing some shit, and there are other people like him who are able to have this type of effect on their world? And would we eventually dive into those people? Do they actually have any importance, or are they just some random dumbass who did a bunch of magic and killed himself in the process just for the comedic effect of the story? So it gives you those questions. Well, it makes you generate those questions within yourself that keeps you wanting to dive in to find out more about everybody.
No, true. And I think that's a perfect segue to really get into the main MCs that the series we're focusing on. So to start off, we pretty much already hinted it before, but the main MC that like the story focuses on is Kaiman, who is pretty much, at least, well, I mean, you know, spoiler alert, hint, 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 hint. Pretty much we know that one, he's like a boss fighter, two, memory loss. So like, you know, while the series is going on, we're trying to figure out who he is as well. And like with his lizard head and main body, we figure out from the story that he was found by his partner, Nikaido, and that he's just kind of like, I don't even know how to really describe it, but I mean, from what we know so far, he's kind of like this just boss fighter who originally, more than likely, is probably a sorcerer as well, that gets trapped in the hole based on unquestionable means. And as far as like his impact on the actual show, he's just a funny guy, you know, like he's like all he really wants to do is find out his past. And I think that and like how his take on it is simple. It's just run into a sorcerer, put the head in my mouth, see if the guy knows him. If the answer is no, you dead. On to the next one. And
first of all, I'm gonna just pause you on what you said real quick. Put the head in my mouth. I just wanted to pause you right there. But please.
Damn, I was talking fast, so you could let me go with that one. But no, okay. All right, gotta have the homies keep me in check. No, that's good. That's all right. Got the big pause. Oh man, but in any case, like the point I was trying to say though is just that like that mentality that he had from the very F1 didn't change throughout the entire series, minus like really getting into, you know, his feelings for his partner Nikaido. But what I think makes him so good is just that he's treating this so simply chill. And like the story is just progressing because of how chill he's actually taking it. If you really think about it, which is why I really like him, to be honest. It's just like it's a simple plan. It makes sense because not again spoiler, but big spoiler is that he's not himself affected by magic. So all he needs is the hands, which always is a plus for me if you know my likes already. So all he really does is use his hands to find out who he is. So mad respect.
Yeah. So if you had to rate him, what would you give him? Since it sounds like we're starting with Kaiman. So
no, sure. Fuck. Like I'm trying to think if there's any minuses to not give him a lit status. To be honest, actually, okay. I'll probably give him a straight decent as hell. The only reason I'm not going to bump him up for a lit is because, unfortunately, because he handles it so simply, he does do a couple of stupid stuff that I just don't agree with, and he could have actually helped out the plot or helped out like his own self in multiple ways, but he just didn't see to use his intellect. So I got to give him a minus there, but everything else is decent. So decent as hell.
Oh. I think if we're talking Kaiman, I would give him a decent as hell, but I would give the guy in his mouth a lit because that dude was fucking hilarious. And I mean, like I co-sign pretty much everything you said about his overview. I think Kaiman. I mean, obviously, if you want to see some hints, he's there. He's obviously the main driver of the story because he's the main character. And like we had brought up in the story part, he helps bring. I wouldn't even say he ever really brings the funny. The guy who brings the funny is the guy in his mouth. But he brings the part that keeps the show from just going like too off the wall. So like really trying to figure out why he's a lizard man. Even though in itself that is still like random and crazy, it does still add like some sort of a plot to the story. So he does a good job. I mean, as a main character, doing what he wants to do. I like that they weren't scared, spoiler alert, to kind of handle the relationship aspect either of like his love with Nikaido. I was surprised that they were like taking that on in the way that they did, given how crazy the actual story is. So I mean, overall, yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a decent as hell character. He just did some stupid shit I didn't like. I didn't hate him as a main character though, which I'm biased. I'm always looking for a reason to hate a main character. Kaiman didn't give me that much. And like I said, the dude in Kaiman's mouth though, that nigga is lit, bro. Pause.
All right. I was gonna give him a decent as hell. Mainly, so you touched on most of the points that I wanted to hit on for the reason why I give him this rating. But I wanted to also add on the fact that being a main character, it doesn't automatically make him OP in the story, as you would typically find in a lot of other shonen manga or anime, where they have some type of crazy ability that just automatically makes them untouchable at some point throughout the story. No, this dude is just a regular ass guy. The only thing that makes him special is that he can't be affected by magic, essentially. Other than that, he's just a regular ass dude. Yes, he mainly fights by hands, and he's clearly not the best one at hands at that. So that's another plus where you have a lot of opportunity for him to get better and a lot of opportunity for him to get his ass kicked if he screwed up at some points. And then I like how he's able to humble himself, which is also another thing that you don't typically find. Like, for example, when he goes over, spoiler alert, when he goes over into the wizard world, he actually gets a job over there and starts to live like, a regular life, essentially, where basically the wizards are supposed to be his enemies, but he's humbling himself down and being like, yeah, all right, you're my boss, and letting people kick his ass and everything like that, as, people that are his co-workers and boss and all of that, where, he would normally be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking take your head off or whatever. But that's a big plus for me, as with him being a main character, he's able to bring himself down that low. And I would say the biggest thing that annoys me is the fact, as very similar to what you were saying earlier, his stupidity. For example, if you know that you have a whole ass dude in your mouth that's, supposed to be able to, help you find out who the person is that's turned you into what you are, you could have at least at some point got a picture of the nigga drawn. So in case you actually saw this guy in the world, you'd be like, hold on, you look just like the nigga inside my mouth. Hold on, something ain't right. Either you the wizard or somebody made a copy of you, and I want to know why they got a copy of you, because that was definitely at one point where he walked directly past a man who is basically the guy inside of his mouth and didn't even know it was him. So he definitely lost some points on that, on the factor of stupidity. So that's the reason he isn't lit in my book.
That makes sense. To move on to the second MC, we mentioned her multiple times, but Nikaido, who's, to be honest, I think I'm gonna jump to her status immediately, because I gotta give her a lip. For the simple reason that F1, you knew she was not one to be F'd with, all right? Like, homegirl instantly brought the hands. And for pretty much most of the series, for most of the episodes in the 12 ep series, like that's all she pretty much uses to get by. And the thing is that she doesn't just get by. She bodies people. She puts people in the dirt with her hands alone, no weapons. It is redonkulous. And the reason I gotta give her all these ups is that, at least maybe I need to expand my anime search. You could blame Juggle for this, but I rarely see a female MC be able to do so much work by herself, period. You know what I mean? And especially for her to be an actual MC. It's not like she's how do I really say it? It's not like she's really representing any big anime tropes. You know what I mean? Like maybe you have a lolly girl who's stupid strong with an axe or something like that. You know what I mean? Or the basic black-haired anime girl MC who's good with sword fighting skills, with samurai fighting skills. You know what I mean? She didn't really fit any bases there. She was just a main anime girl MC with the hands, period. That was just it. And I don't know why, but it was just so appealing to me because of that. And then if you add along the fact that, I guess this more goes into the story and ecchi, but I'm more just getting into the feminism aspect of the show. But they just had multiple opportunities to make Nikaido, and we'll get into Noi later, but to make them into kind of hardcore sexual content kind of characters, but they chose not to. And I definitely gave the series, as well as the characters obviously too, mad respect because of that. So she pretty much kept her independence as a character, though they've touched on the romantic side between her and Kaiman. That wasn't really a factor, if at least not a big factor at all in the series. So she was just her own boss character that she was man, I gotta help my homie out. She went by herself in the sorcerer world, robbed a kid, and then bodied him. All on her own, started associating with the demons on her choice. She had a plan, she carried it out. All right, so I don't know, just all around, Nikaido just was impressive to me. The only thing I didn't like was how she ended up getting caught by N, but that was kind of a toss-up, she had to face a challenge at some point, which makes sense. So I'm kind of regarding that, but I personally don't affect that with her status of lit to me. But all around lit.
You said exactly what I was going to say, except the only thing I was going to add on the fact is that throughout basically the bulk of the story, she was low key even holding herself back because let's not forget, spoiler alert, she is a sorcerer, so she could have been doing magic on all of these characters this whole time.
And her magic is broken, boy.
Exactly. So, and she's been refusing to do so. So let's not forget the hidden potential that she actually has, that she's chosen not to use, and she's still been kicking ass with straight hands.
The hype they put on her mask and everything, them niggas was cold.
Oh yeah, when she put on the mask, it was over.
So yeah, lit for me.
I think I'm gonna co-sign the lits all around. The only thing I also wanted to add is that the author has a clear fetish with muscular women. I'm not mad at it, man. Do what you gotta do. But it definitely felt like there was something going on with his obsession with making these women overly muscular.
Actually, wait, side piece.
I think the creator is a woman.
I'm gonna look over now, but I'm pretty sure the author and creator is a woman.
Even better. So she's just like.
I'm looking this up now, but I'm pretty sure the character's the creator's a woman.
Well, I was looking at it earlier. The show started in 1999 by a woman.
Yep, here it is. Q Hayashida. Yep, it's a woman.
Well, shout out to her. You wrote an amazing manga, because I remember reading a little bit of it in the past, and this anime is dope. So shout out to her. My correction. And also, you seem to have some fetish with muscular women. So, but I mean, other than that, I did appreciate that, and I liked. And now that it's written by a woman, it makes a whole lot more fucking sense. That the women were not background characters, like you said earlier, Jugga. It was nice to have somebody like Nikaido really feel like shit. In some cases, it was like, bro, Kaiman, you need to bring her, bro. She can throw them hands. Like, you feel me? Like, you need to relax. Like, he needed her in a lot of the cases, and not the other way around. So I think that was dope. I mean, I enjoyed it. So I enjoyed her. So I would definitely give her a lit. I don't really have any negatives on her.
Facts. And then, I think that was pretty much it for at least the main quote unquote good side of the MCs in the series. Now to get into, I guess, the main antagonists of Kaiman and Nikaido, we go under, let's see, should we do Shinonoi first and leave N for last, or vice versa? Okay.
Let's leave N for last.
All right. Then we'll get into one of the male antagonists of Kaiman and Nikaido, Shin. Who pretty much, I mean, like, the best way that I saw him was kind of like the hardcore sorcerer version of Kaiman, you know, with probably better hands. Now that I'm starting to think
definitely better hands.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, Shin don't F around. He's kind of like a combination of like a psycho fight deranged killer. At the same time, though, he's about, I wouldn't say strats, but he's about using his brain in battle, though, too. And
I mean, your boy's weapon is a hammer. He came ready to throw the hands, bro.
That's facts. And then, like, plus his actual sorcerer power, granted, again, I mean, like, I guess it's just another, I gotta keep highlighting the story, but like, though like magic is a big deal in the series, as far as the main characters go, they don't really use their magic that often, and it's mostly about the hands when it comes to a battle. So I mean, that's just like a good point again for the story, that they don't just rely on magic, even though they make it creative and imaginative for as far as what you're seeing in the illustrations of the animation. But again, it all comes back to the hands, low key. Like, no one is a good character in this show unless you got hands. And like, I gotta give big ups to it. And Shin represents that completely. He's a hired assassin of N, who we're gonna talk about later, but homie gets to work. Like, when he gets put on a job, he actually gives homies a chance. Like, bro, I don't even want to kill you right now. And it's not like that kind of cockiness that like, okay, like, you know, I'm this boss, you really don't want to F with me. It's more like, bro, you gonna get put in the dirt or you gonna do what I say. Like, there's no just overconfidence. It's just, those are the facts, and I'm trying to help you out. And people don't want to listen. So he puts him in the ground. Like, it's just about that life. So all around as a character, I mean, like, he doesn't really get, we find out his backstory, which is definitely, I guess, interesting, but I guess in that respect is a little basic. But all around, as far as like how we see him in real time, I think I got to give the homie like a lit status, you know? Like, he doesn't try to be any more than what he is. He's completely Gucci being an assassin and partner with Noi. He's cool with what he is and what he does, and he's the boss at it. So lit status.
I mean, I agree, but I think I'm gonna have to toss out a lit minus for my boy. I thought his action and shit was dope. Only reason why I give him a minus is because, like, at times I felt like he came off a bit like tsundere-ish. Hearing his backstory, it explained it a little bit, but I just didn't. His aesthetic sometimes just like kind of bothered me. But other than that, like everything else, I thought he was dope. But those were my negatives. Like with him and Kaiman, it's kind of like the same type of thing. It's like I fuck with y'all, but there was still something that just kind of like it wasn't all the way there for me. So, but he was better than Kaiman in my opinion. So I'm gonna give him a lit minus.
Yeah, I was gonna give him a decent as hell minus. I don't know. He just kind of seemed boring to me. I liked him. I like his personality as a character with the way that he handles things. But I don't know. In this world of wackiness and everything, he just seemed kind of dry. I feel like I probably would have enjoyed him a lot more when he was a lot more on the crazy side. When he was a youngster coming up in life, chopping his whole ass arms off and stuff, and trying to act like it was nothing and everything. But I don't know. He just seemed a lot more. I guess he's too calm in this world of wackiness, and it kind of threw me off with him in this world. So I couldn't exactly give him anything higher than a decent as hell minus.
Yeah, you could definitely toss him in any other anime, I feel like, and he would not seem as weird as all of these other characters.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you when you say that. Yeah, like he definitely. Sometimes it felt like, are you sure you meant to be in this story? Because like, you're definitely more normal than the niggas around you. I totally agree.
Big facts.
And to kind of like throw a little monkey wrench in there, the only thing I'm going to give him with defense with what you just said is that Shin was kind of raised as a human in the whole first. You know what I mean? So it's more like since he was there like from the jump, the fact that he's treating everything so calm and chill, you can actually argue that is what kind of makes him kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like how I mean, it can go into like a whole conversation, I guess, but it's more like, what would you call people that's completely Gucci with living in a crazy world? Wouldn't you kind of call them crazy too?
I guess that's true. That's like what, a sociopath? Is that the term for it? The lack of emotion?
I think so.
To normal shit. So
yeah,
I can see that.
I mean, at least like that's how I at least like look at it a couple of times. Granted, I mean, when you talk about his partners, like literally the complete opposite. Granted, she's a sorcerer, so I mean, you can get into like the whole I guess a psycho analysis of the characters, but I kind of figured where it's like, if you look at him as the only guy who keeps it chill, it actually makes sense because he kind of brings balance to the show as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a thought. But you guys definitely bring up valid points as far as how he acts during the show compared to everyone else. I mean, he's chill, but when he comes down to a fight, he gets real. So that's right. Mm-hmm. But we'll jump into his partner. Pretty much the next big female anime MC in the series, Noi, who's Shin's partner as an assassin for In, and I mean, for lack, I mean, like you're kind of seeing the trend here, but again, another character, all about hands, all about big status. I mean, at least for I don't even want to say that, but she's big, to be honest. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's got to be standing like maybe close to 7 feet F around, and she's just like swole, son. And not to mention, I mean, I gotta mention it so because it helps out, like, why is she such a boss with her hand? But she low-key has some OP magic. I mean, I don't even know if that's even like considered low-key, but I mean, she was able to restore, I mean, kind of spoiler alert, but she's able to restore an entire body from just having a head. I mean, like, not her own, but for just someone else. And it's like no big deal for her to even do that. Like, that kind of healing aspect, I mean, we're talking about like better than Deadpool, better than Wolverine status over here, just because of the speed alone. So, I mean, like, I honestly don't see how you really killing this chick, unless, like, considering the creative magic that they've included, she just gets transformed. So she just like put out from that kind of aspect. But if you want to go with her hand-to-hand combat, you ain't getting a W. It's just not happening. And the fact that they gave like this OP ability again to a female character, I'm all for it. So I mean, I'm kind of like you can kind of tell I'm kind of like biased with this series, but I think I'm kind of giving Noi lit status.
Yeah, she's definitely getting a lit from me, and probably partially because I want to give her the AfrOtaku Big Nigga Award. I'm just gonna throw that out here real quick.
She's a nominee, official nominee for Big Nigga 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, bro.
All right.
She's definitely getting that one. And to me, she's like the perfect person to have as your bodyguard, or even as your like, you know, as your partner in crime or some shit. Because first of all, she's a woman, so if you walking up and down the streets with her, niggas gonna sleep on her and think that she weak as hell. So when they run up, they definitely gonna get that work, even if it's more than one. You can have 5 of them niggas, they gonna get that work. Yeah. Two. She, like you said, she has one of the fucking most OP magical skills, dude. If you got caught slipping or whatever and got shot up, got chopped to bits, whatever happened to you, got you in a fucking building and it blew up, she can still bring you back, bro. She's definitely she's top tier if in terms of if you had a bodyguard or a partner in crime and some shit. So that's another thing that makes her great. And then 3, just in the terms of how she is within the story itself, I would say she's a pretty comedic character. She has some funny moments here and there, which make me like her more. And she's not, once again, as you said, when we were talking about Nikaido, she's not over-sexualized shit. She's the opposite of over-sexualized, if anything, as a female character in this show. So that definitely keeps it nice and fresh. When all you see from a lot of other anime and manga is big ass titties bouncing all over the place, or all of these other tropes that you have to find within females. So I'm definitely fucking with it. She's getting that easy lit for me.
Yeah, like low-key as like a side note, like there's literally like a bath scene with her top off, and it's like you literally feel no kind of way about it. And right. Like, I mean, like it's so legit. Like you literally almost forget, like, oh snap, those are titties, aren't they? And you're just like, oh okay, and you just keep going. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't distract you at all from her character or the storyline. Like seeing them literally butt naked, and it's like, and to be honest, it feels kind of good, especially with this kind of story. Because I mean, it would be so kinds of effed up. I don't know about y'all, but I would actually be feeling a little effed up if I felt that way, for the simple fact of, again, what the series kind of is. So yeah, I'm glad that they did it like that.
Yeah, man, I don't even see grape juice happen to her, bro. That's saying something.
Nah, grape juice will do it. That nigga ain't got no chill. He'll do it.
Yeah, he said as long as they got a vagina, he's fapping to it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give my rating a little bit lower for Noi. Mine is gonna be decent as hell, and the reason why it's decent as hell is just because I think she needed more screen time. To me, she felt like more of like the mom character to like the evil team. In the times where they were just focused on what the evil team was going on, she was a little bit like clueless. I like really enjoyed, like I would give, if it was just the action we're talking about, she's definitely at lit, right? Like she contributed a lot. She has a dope ass power. I just think we got her backstory a little bit late in the game. And I'm expecting more from her in coming seasons. I think we kind of like tailed off letting us know that we're about to get more about Noi. But I just don't feel like in the context of like that first season, we really didn't know much about her. I felt like until like the final episodes that got to like a spoiler alert, like that ball where they choose different partners or whatever. So yeah, I felt like it wasn't until that point that I really got more interested in what Noi had going on. And I think definitely in season 2 it'll probably change. I'll probably like her a bit more, but I just needed more depth to her character. I felt like Shin was already pretty flat, and then for her it was kind of just like the light to his darkness. I felt like that's what she was. I just needed more. That's all.
All right, that makes sense.
No, I hear that. And then I guess the final character we're gonna highlight is Shin and Noi's boss, In.
Yes, sir.
Which
My man
is
in, bro.
which
That's my
pretty
nigga.
much is like the definition to me, because like it's hard to think about because of how they present it, but like when you actually get all the facts and really start to think about it, to me the reason why N it's like it's so good to me is just because he's more of a businessman than anything.
Oh,
Like, I mean, like from like you find out pretty much his backstory and how he pretty much just has like a stupid ton of magic, and how his magic is like it's OP, even though you wouldn't really think about it based on what it technically is. But in a way, it literally is OP. Like you get hit by his magic, you're done. So, but I mean, all around, I mean, he started off pretty much just as like, I mean, I don't even know how to really describe it. He starts off, I mean, kind of like as a liberator, which kind of makes you almost question: is he really quote unquote a bad guy? Which I guess again, I mean, you already know Jug is biased, but like, which is another highlight to me of the story. Because I mean, if you really think about Shin, Noi, and En as far as like what they're really doing, how can you really call them quote unquote bad guys? Other than them just actually being sorcerers compared to what we're seeing in the whole. As far as like in general though, En's not really that bad of a guy. The only people he's really murking are people who's actually taking out sorcerers. So it's like, damn, are these the bad guys? Who really are the bad guys? And it makes you again like kind of think about the whole story as a whole. But I mean, that kind of at least started for me when you really think about En's origin, considering he has Shin and Noi under his employment. But I mean, all around, I would say En is. I mean, fuck, I feel like I'm giving lits all day, but damn. I mean, to be honest, I don't have really any reasoning. Like the only reason I'm questioning myself is just because I'm giving out so many lits. But if not a lit, then probably a lit minus. But like all around as a character, he's pretty legit. I mean, like homie just goes about just doing what any big businessman would be doing, and he's not really like he's implementing that many evil means in doing it. Granted, I guess like the one thing is like kind of kidnapping Nikaido, you know what I mean? Okay, facts. But he's only really doing it to murk like which debatably could be considered the big evil character of the series. He's only using Nikaido's ability to pretty much take him out of the equation, make sure that he doesn't ruffle up the whole Sorcerer Society any more than it already has. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about that. But as far as En as a character, I'd say literally minus at a minimum, to be honest.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. I was itching for En, sorry. But En, I have to give him a lit, man. I would even go as far as do we have a golden lit rating? We just have booster trash, right?
Golden.
I don't know if we have
we give it like Toriko status kind of, right?
Yeah,
well, that
that's
was for hype.
Oh, true.
But I don't know. When we eventually create a term for the immaculate lit status, I would probably attribute that to En. Why? I think as a character, the dude is like he fit every aspect that I enjoyed about the show and was able to capture it in very different ways. So the wackiness comes straight from dude's power. Like the fact that he was able to become basically the king. I would say he's more or less the king of the sorcerer world, so to speak, in terms
at
of
least
like
so far from
power.
what we know, that's accurate.
Yeah, and influence. This man did this off of just the ability to turn shit into mushrooms. Which, yes, it can be broken, but like at the end of the day, we've seen crazy broken powers in this story so far, and none have been able to top being able to turn shit into mushrooms, which is crazy. So that right there, I think just adds to like the crazy aspect of Dorohedoro, like the fact that En is the main villain and that's his power. It just speaks to that sense of the show. Now, when we talk about like the funniness, first of all, well, if we talk about like the action part, we don't see En fight a lot, but when he more or less doesn't need to because he just turns niggas into mushrooms. Right. And then on top of that, if this man's biopic that he showed us is accurate, he was thrown into hell, survived off eating his own mushrooms,
That's
So
true.
much so that they let this man out of hell. Which,
That's
as
true.
far as the show goes, I've never heard anyone escape hell. so,
Yep.
so right there adds to his clout, and all he does is turn shit to mushrooms. That's the thing you have to constantly go back to. Is all this nigga does is turn shit into mushrooms. That's it. So he got out of hell off that. He had a pretty rough upbringing as well. He worked in like a sweatshop or something like that.
Right.
Was able to own multiple businesses. Like he has the true underdog story. Like this man was
Exactly.
underdog, bro. And took that shit and bring it all the way to the top. So once I found out who N was, once we get that like backstory, and if pending all of that shit being true, I'm assuming it is. N was dope. And then for him to also be kind of like the fuel of the story, spoiler alert, by being like, I think more or less, he wasn't the guy that turned Kaiman into who he was, but he's had an interaction with Kaiman, and Kaiman was basically the only nigga who really semi stood a chance against him, where he was like, oh shit, like, all right. So I felt like every time I learned more shit about N, I just appreciated him more. Like, of all the characters that was here, outside of maybe like the beginning of the story, but once I started like fucking with N, every scene he was in, to me, just was enjoyable. It was good. I fuck with him, bro. I just, like I said, if there's a golden lit, he would get that for me, bro. He just encompassed all aspects of the show. If you wanted to see something crazy, you would be able to get it from the scenes of N. If you wanted to see something meaningful to the story, N gave you that too. If you want to see something sad, he had that. If you want to see something funny, dark, whatever, every aspect you could think of Dorohedoro, every which way you slice it, N's character had a piece in each one of those, and I thought that was dope.
True.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would have been able to find something bad I can use to go against him, because I honestly couldn't find anything. Just to I'm gonna try to stretch and say, okay, I don't like when he goes into his berserker mode, because it reminds me of Big Mom when she goes crazy. I'm gonna say that as that's my stretch, and then try to say something negative against him. No, yeah, he's the perfect character in this show, in my opinion. And just to add on to everything that you guys were saying, I feel like he's like one of the only big bad bosses of the story that I would actually see myself working for within the story. Like, the only other person that I've seen in any other manga or anime would probably be Midora from Toriko, because I feel like his logic is actually pretty reasonable as well. Like, this dude is simply just a logical businessman, worked his way up to the top by hard work. He didn't do it by just killing everybody and all of that and say, work for me or I'll kill you. And he's like, no, we came here, get this money and work our way up. Everybody gonna eat. we all probably gonna be eating mushrooms sometimes, but we all gonna eat.
Yeah, so, like N's like gotta be billionaire status as far as like the equivalent in the world, like easy.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I always enjoy the way he interacts with the people that work under him, because you typically think of somebody who's like the ultimate boss of some type of large corporation, that person being a dick to all of their lower guys or whatever. He's like, no, man, y'all basically part of the family, man. What up?
Right. Like,
talk shit to me all you want or whatever. It's whatever. I'm like, I fuck with that.
Like, he
fuck with
really
me too much, I'll turn your ass into a mushroom, though.
Yo, don't sleep.
Don't sleep.
But no, I mean that's a good point. I mean, like I just want to again like reinforce that like his whole start was kind of saving people. Like all he did, like that's how he first got his family, was just saving his fam from that sweatshop that he was first in, and then just casually built up from there. And it's not like it built up on evil means. It just built up on continuously saving people from the harshness of that he was experiencing. So, I mean, it's not like he's this ruthless overlord. He's just this kind of respected overlord, low key. So you just find it hard to really hate him, because he really hasn't done a lot of quote unquote evil type ish. So, no, it's just more big ups to him in general. So.
All right, and spoiler alert, but let me ask y'all this question. How big of a what the fuck was it when y'all found out that Noe and Ann were cousins?
Go ahead.
I know you go ahead. I'm still gathering my thoughts.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I just kind of accepted it as that simply because it came so early, if I remember right. Because we were introduced to Shin and Noi like episode 2. And if we weren't introduced to in episode 2, we were definitely introduced to 3. So I guess it came in like super early enough that I just kind of saw it as like a, like almost like a story building fact. You know what I mean? So I guess it really didn't hit me maybe as hard as it was supposed to. But I just kind of like, oh, okay. Because at least like after finding out they were cousins, you didn't really, it didn't really like help the story at all for that fact. It's not like they really like played on it, The only thing that when I was thinking about it, the only thing that might attribute to why they brought it up is maybe to why they aren't partners. For the simple fact that maybe it's like you shouldn't really be a partner with like actual blood related relatives. And then plus, I guess if you also add the fact that Noi was trying to become a devil at first too, that might also have a play on whether he wanted to be a partner with her or not. But I can't remember. But in any case, I just saw it like, so.
Oh, was it really that early that they revealed that? I thought that was much later in the show. That they were
if I remember right, they introduced that fact pretty early. I'd have to look back to confirm, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I thought I caught them later, but I think like I would say in the when I was watching the show, it didn't hit me like that. But like now, as Juggle was talking and you brought it up, I thought about it more. It is weird because if, like I said, if N's movie is true, his biopic is accurate, like technically he killed his parents when he was a baby, worked at a sweatshop, then went to hell. Like at what point in time did he realize like, oh, these are my family members? If from a baby you were, you know what I'm saying? So that part, yeah. But then I guess it could be explained away by the fact that like he's rich now and has money. So it probably could have paid for a DNA test, or they could explain it away with some sorcerer that has the ability to show you family members or some shit like that. There's a bunch of ways they can explain it away. But yeah, I mean, bringing that up is a good point because in retrospect, it is actually a big question mark as to how he even figured out that they were family members. But in the show, like I didn't even think about it from that perspective because I think it was revealed before they started talking about his biopic or whatever. So once I saw his biopic, I don't think it came to my mind at that point in time.
We didn't see the bio until like I want to say Ep 10 or 11. Like it was like definitely like the last 3 eps. So
yeah,
for sure.
That nigga must have hit up Ancestry.com or some shit.
I'm telling you, that's crazy. And then that is another nice point about Noi that I wish they developed is that like Noi was like I'm kind of segueing, but she was like a conduit to a lot of the interesting parts about how sorcerers work or the sorcerer system works in the story. And I just wanted more of that, but it was like they just give you a taste, like that thing you were bringing up about her wanting to be a devil. It was like, oh, like that's a story point I really want to understand why the fuck that happens or how that works. And it's kind of like we'll just mention it, we'll probably explain it later, or her healing ability, shit like that. But whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty much the main 5. As far as honorable recommendations, I want to give some big ups to Ebisu. She definitely has some comedic moments in the show that definitely made me laugh. Like, well, she just randomly slapped Shin's dog and just called it stupid for like literally no reason at all. I thought that was like low-key hilarious that I just can't forget. And then 2, on a super random note, I want to give some big ups to Johnson. The big cockroach insect.
Big ass roach.
He was actually pretty funny, and like it was just interesting how they added what was at least at first glance supposed to be almost like a filler episode / like filler arc, if you would, as far as introducing Johnson and like that random guy who wanted to be a sorcerer. You were thinking like, oh, so Johnson's just gonna live in the sewers for the rest of his life, cool. And then you just see him like 2 episodes later. Yeah, I brought him back up and he's part of the family. It's like, wait, what? It's like, why would he do this? So I definitely thought that was hilarious. And then like he's like talking just to say like shocking, like it's just so random. That just continuously made me laugh. So definitely big ups to and then the last character I want to give big ups to was Turkey Buddy. That was low-key able to like make like how his magic worked, which was what like so funny to me. Like this kid literally was almost like on the Food Network. Oh yeah, let me show you how to make a clone. We're gonna get this glaze and these sauces and spices.
Oh yeah.
I low-key thought that was hilarious. Like Like they could have literally just made it so simple. Like, oh yeah, I got this buddy that's magic as a clone. Here, let me make a clone for you real quick, insta. Nah. It was like low key. I'm actually a chef, and to use my magic, I gotta cook you up a clone. I was like, wow, they actually went that far with it. So, nah, definitely big ups to him. That was hilarious.
I was going to give a special shout out to Kasakabe, the doctor, I guess you could say the super old but young looking,
right?
Smart doctor, because they definitely. I don't think I've seen any other colored characters, but he definitely represents as a colored character in this show, and they definitely put some respect on his name with who he is and how he interacts with everybody. So I fucks with him.
Yeah, he was definitely unfazed by a lot of bullshit, given the fact that he's just a regular human.
Right.
I would have to toss out Tanba in here. He's the owner, the restaurant owner of the meat pie restaurant. We kind of meet him in the second half of the story, but dude was just funny. Like, one, I just thought he was like a good like kind of mentor thing to Kaiman. I liked their whole interaction and how Kaiman was working for him. But two, I just thought the scene was super hilarious with the meat pies, where like his ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever starts like competing against his meat pie shop, but she has a sorcerer there to, I guess this is spoilers, but she has a sorcerer there to basically make the meat pies extremely tasty to men and shit. I just thought that whole like little scene between the two of them was pretty funny. And I just liked him as a character. He just seemed like a wholesome dude in the context of that, like, well, I guess it's nicer in the sorcerer land, but in the crazy world as a whole, he just seemed like, well, I'm just trying to be out here making some meat pies. Like, that's all I really give a fuck about. So I fucked that. I fucked with that. And then I would also shout out the other dude. I don't even know what the fuck his name is. The other character that was like kind of their tag along buddy in the first few episodes. Not the sorcerer one. The guy that was like Kaiman and Nikaido's tag along buddy. He was there with the zombies, and then he was like hanging out with the other doctor guy. Okay. I would just shout him out. He was decent enough. He had his funny moments here and there. I definitely thought they were gonna kill him off in earlier episodes, but anybody from the Hold shows you one thing. Anybody from the Hold that's lived for a while, like, there are some real survivors. Because for the fact that both of them, Kusakabe and that dude, they both knew Shin like 20-some years ago. Before, I guess, like back when the power scale was lopsided and sorcerers were getting hunted by humans. And then they survived all the chaos of it flipping all the way around and then still making it here. And they basically, he walked away with, I don't think he has any like experimental side effects, I guess, where like a sorcerer did XYZ to me. Kusakabe does, because the reason why he's young is because of that. But it was like basically for like 20 to 30 some odd years, he's been able to duck sorcerers who just come and do stupid shit on a daily basis.
That's true.
In their land. So I gotta put a little bit of respect on his name for surviving that long.
I see that.
Very true.
Yeah, that's it for me. Any other honorable mentions we want to toss out?
No, I'm pretty much good. Low key. Yeah. Oh well, actually, okay. It's more
like
we
talk about Ebisu and Fujita, I guess.
Yeah, no, I gave at least some comedic big ups to Ebisu. Fujita, I was like, to be honest. Like, he was more. I guess he was more like how to really describe him. Like, okay, you could pretty much define Fujita as like the basic, like, okay, you define Fujita as like any common person actually watching or reading the series if they were born a sorcerer. Like, if you wanted to be like, yo, let me go into this Dorohedoro world and I want to be a sorcerer, you're going to be Fujita. So it's like,
that's fact.
That's pretty much like the relationship and probably at least the goal of Fujita's character is that, like, you reading this series, this is you. Like, this is how you would survive. This is how you would be in this world. You would run to N as quickly as possible and just work for him. Like, that's all you're going to do, period. So, I mean, I guess you can give him respect off of that because his respect is our respect, sure. If you want to use that logic, it's no problem. I'm trying to think. Oh, other than that, I did actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of more big ups to N in this thinking. But if you remember Tomba's like apprentice, who was also like, you know, a sorcerer in the world working to do meat pies, but his magic is transforming people to meat pies. You know,
Yep.
and like you are dead when you get transformed into a meat pie. But think about his status compared to N, who's pretty much almost equivalent to that respect, where you're using your magic to transform someone into a food. Yet look at that, like, just difference of status, which again is just more big ups to N, because he knows how to use his ish correctly. So I mean, it depends on how deep you want to look into that, as far as like, you know, like all humans have the capability to make X, Y, or Z or themselves. It all depends on how you use it, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the point of the matter is that magic ability is not like weak. Like, you should not be sleeping on that. The fact that he couldn't actually get a magic partner, even with an ability like that, to me actually says a lot. But you can, like, I mean, they could maybe go into that like with season 2, but you could actually use that fact alone to like make a dick ton of theories regarding the whole Dorohedoro world for the sorcerers. Because, like, again, that ability ain't nothing to sleep on, yet look at the whole world sleeping on that ability. So it's like,
hey man, niggas ain't trying to work in a restaurant.
Right. I mean, but he went to Blue Knight though, searching for a partner, and he got no luck. I mean, think about that though.
Yeah, don't you and the person that you're trying to partner up with, don't y'all both have to agree unless you end up kidnapping somebody?
Facts. But I mean, at the same time, like, who would it? I mean, okay, let me put it like this: you make that character. I can't forget it. I mean, I can't remember his name. My apologies. But you take that character and you give him like the hands of Shin. Don't you see him as like a higher up in In's, like, you know, network? I mean, like, come on, like, you get hit with his magic, you done. Like, it's not even like a question. You're just done.
No, I definitely understand that, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if you see him and you see that his power is OP as fuck, but you see that he only uses it for making food or whatever, he ain't really trying to do shit in life. You trying to come up big or whatever, you don't really find a person like him to be useful, because you could be like, okay, so that guy's dreaming small, and I'm trying to go out here and do big shit. So I'd rather take somebody with a slightly weaker power, but who's actually trying to go out here and make big moves in the world. That's just my thinking. That people are probably going about it.
Okay. No, that's it. Okay. I can kind of see that. So it gives, all right, that gives, I guess, a little bit more depth into the sorcerer world then to that regard, as far as the actual goals. But I don't know, I guess, well, I mean, this is all like theories, obviously, but I guess the question more would be, if he found a partner, what would him and his partner do after getting together? I guess, in my opinion, I was just like assuming that you're looking for a partner to do big-ish with. But that's actually a pretty big assumption. So that I'm thinking about it like that. That's true. So, okay.
He probably trying to be on some food war shit. He probably trying to find a person that can make the vegetable dish to his meat pie.
Ooh, facts.
Yeah. Before we segue into hype, I just would want to shout out one last group of people, which is just the Devils in the series. They got introduced hella late, but just a very strong concept add to the story by bringing up this like devil concept and the fact that sorcerers couldn't achieve this level, whatever the fuck that means. And I mean, like, even showing some of the emotional aspects to them, being I don't remember the particular devil's name, but the one that had kind of like some not sentiment, sympathy. I don't know.
Nikaido?
Yeah, the one that fucked with Nikaido. So
Asu.
yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, so Asu. So I think seeing that, I mean, it's dope. So I'm just trying to I think they're worth mentioning, and hopefully in season 2 we get to learn a lot more about them. But I guess we can sorry, what?
No, I was simply saying I agree.
Yep. So we can segue into the hype. To kick it off, I would say basically I felt like this show didn't really have a whole lot of hype at all. I didn't hear anybody talking about it in the community. That's not what made me watch it. It was really just randomly scrolling through Netflix and picking it up. So I would say, as far as hype goes, it's definitely, maybe even I would argue, underhyped. But there's definitely no hype associated with the show. I don't know what it's going to be like post Season one, I did see some, like, because we shared some stuff on like our social medias about it, and I saw that some people have watched it. So I think maybe when season two drops, we might see more of a buzz around it than we did for season one. But yeah, as far as hype, it's definitely 0 to none, probably underhyped as a show.
No,
Yeah.
completely agreed. Like it pretty much as you said, like we saw on social media outlets that there is like a very small buzz about it, and the people who have watched it, I've rarely heard any bad things about it from those people. So it just needs, I mean, maybe just needs like a little bit of time. I mean, like I guess big ups to Netflix for actually picking it up and recognizing, like the low key cool status about it. So maybe just needs a little bit of time, but I mean, whoever watches it, I could almost like guarantee that if you don't just like basic anime, you gonna like this anime. You know what I mean? Like if you only like a shonen watcher, then like this is more than likely not your cup of tea. But if you expand it to any like 2 or 3 other genres of anime, you are gonna enjoy this anime. So I feel like it's definitely underhyped. Definitely needs some more big ups, and hopefully with time it'll be more absorbed and more in the actual anime community, because it definitely deserves a season 2, because I'm definitely thirsty for it. And if not, I'll probably start reading, because it's just interesting. So
Right. And I could definitely see a reason behind the low levels of hype around it, because you kind of have to get past that first, 10-second impression of the show with you seeing like the artwork, the art style that it has and everything. You just see some guy with a big ass lizard head or whatever. You're like, oh, if this show would be exactly for me or whatever. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't even have jumped in it if it wasn't for you guys, the way you guys were talking about it months ago and so forth. So I'm like, I'm assuming that most people wouldn't even fuck with it by just looking at it unless they're getting a recommendation from somebody. So that's honestly very reasonable why the amount of hype around it is super low.
All right.
No, that's actually a good point.
I mean, with that, we were kind of alluding to it, but I think we could go ahead and segue into the recommendation. So, as far as should you watch Dorohedoro, I think like we've all kind of said, from my perspective, I'm gonna say yes, but with a caveat, which is watch episode 1. If you don't like episode 1, don't bother watching the rest of the show, because it might not be in your mindset of crazy. Because like I said, this type of show, and like we said throughout this thing, is definitely a out there random craziness kind of show. It has a plot, it gets a plot, but it's definitely more quirky, and like for a certain type of, you have to be okay with that kind of humor. And some people I just know are usually not as exposed to or okay with that kind of like random crazy humor. So it might not all come together for you. You might just be bothered by the fact that the story isn't as cohesive as you want it to be, or that the characters are so weird. You might be really bothered by that. So like I said, I would recommend it to most people that are coming from my mindset or frame and can enjoy that type of stuff. But I would say for the ones where I can't really tell you, because I don't know how everyone thinks, I would say you should watch the first episode. If you're comfortable with the jokes that were made, how the characters are acting, you're only going to get more of that, and it's going to get crazier as time goes on. So you'll enjoy the show. If you absolutely detest that, don't bother watching, because you're just going to hate everything else.
No, that's facts. Well, I mean, which definitely is like a big ups to the series, but I mean, F1 episode 1 does give you like a really strong vibe. I mean, episode 1 pretty much like defines what you're gonna receive for the rest of the 12 episodes. Like it leaves like nothing really hidden, minus the actual mystery aspects of the plot. So, no, I definitely support MGG's suggestion. Just watch F1, see how you feel. If you think like you're feeling it, then more than likely you're going to enjoy the series. If you're not, then I guess it's just not for you. Respect. But as far as recommendations for me, I would definitely say, and definitely think it's a big recommendation, especially for, again, like, the big anime watchers out there. And if you haven't like actually watched any anime like this before, I would definitely think it's like a good segue maybe into other anime where this could just be, it'll just be refreshing. Long story short, like if you watch a lot of anime, I don't think this is common to the sense that it'll stand out to you and possibly even have you, like thinking about anime in general differently. I think this could be like a good gateway for you if you feel like experimenting. So also like what Gramps was saying, the biggest challenge for most people, I think, with this anime is just going to be jumping into that first episode, period. Like as soon as you see like the cover and like maybe hear like, the gore that you're reading about it, it may be a put off, but I just challenge you to just watch that first episode and then make your judgments off that.
Yep. And just to add a couple last bits to what you're saying, I would definitely recommend this to people who love to get high while watching anime, because I feel like I'm not going to say that I know the experience. I'm going to assume that if you're high when you're watching anime, you're definitely going to have a good time watching this. You're probably going to laugh your ass off the whole time. And with 100% without a doubt, if you have little ass kids that live with you, do not watch this. They will get
they will get nightmares.
Like there's a lot of kid friendly anime out there. This
is not one of them.
Nowhere near there.
That's true.
Stay away.
No, that's actually a good point. Like I can definitely see little kids getting nightmares from this kind of series, though.
Right.
But that's it for that, though.
Okay. All right. Well, that is our recommendation for Dorohedoro. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts on the show if you watched it in the comments. Let us know if you're going to start the show from watching this video in the comments. And we will catch you at the next one.
All righty. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Peace.